Today on our 2014 Nissan Altima, we're going to be installing the CURT Trailer Hitch Receiver, part number C11352. Now here's what our hitch looks like installed on our vehicle. Now we'll go ahead and give you a couple measurements in helping you choose some accessories for your hitch. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost edge of the bumper is approximately 6.5 inches. From the top of the opening in the receiver to the ground is approximately 10 3/4 inches. Now before we begin our installation of our hitch, let's go over the tools that we're going to use to do that. Now to speed things up, you may see us use an impact driver, but you can get away with just using a standard ratchet wrench. You're going to need a drill, you'll need a torque wrench, you'll need some drill bits as well. Either a hand file or a round file to go on your drill. It'll speed things up with a round file. Now the sockets we're going to be using, we'll need a 15 millimeter, a 3/4 inch, a 10 millimeter, a 12 millimeter. A couple extensions will make things a little easier but not necessary. Flathead screwdriver or a trim panel removal tool. And that's all the tools you'll need to install your hitch. Now we're going to go ahead and begin our installation here underneath the vehicle. We're going to temporarily need to remove both of the mufflers as well as the tailpipe assembly area. Now we'll start over here on the passenger side. We're going to need to take off this clamp right here. There's also a rubber hanger that's up on top of the muffler that once we loosen up the clamp, we'll be able to slide the muffler free from the rubber hanger. Go ahead and loosen up the nut here on the clamp. We'll then take the muffler, rocking it gently back and forth. We'll need to release it from the exhaust pipe here. And slide it out of the rubber hanger like this. Go ahead and set it aside for now. Now with our exhaust removed, next we're going to need to drill out these two rivets here on the heat shield. One here and one here. Now the heat shield will not be reinstalled. There's two attachment points for the passenger side. We'll be using this hole here and this hole here. We'll be using a 1/2 inch carriage bolt, square hole spacer block, and a 1/2 inch flange nut. Now in order to get the carriage bolt and square hole spacer block into the vehicle's frame, we'll be using the supplied bolt leader or pull wire to do that. This hole here, we're going to need to enlarge using a drill bit or a file to make it large enough that the square hole spacer block, as well as the carriage bolt, can fit through it. We're going to go ahead and just use a drill bit and drill a hole right next to the existing hole. Next, we're going to go ahead and use a file to finish opening up the hole. You can either just use a hand file like this, or to speed things up a little bit, we're going to use a round file attached to our drill. Now that we have our access hole opened up to allow the square hole spacer block and the carriage bolt to fit, we're going to need to take the coiled end of the fish wire or bolt leader, go through the rearmost mounting location. We'll then pull it out the forward mounting location and access hole. Put the square hole spacer block in place and thread the carriage bolt on. We'll then push both back up into the frame of the vehicle, pulling them down into place. Now for the forward mounting location, we'll be using the reverse pull method. So we'll go ahead and slide the spacer block onto the pull wire. We'll then put the carriage bolt in place. This time we'll fish the carriage bolt in first, and then slide the square hole spacer block in. Again, pulling them back down into position. We'll then go and repeat all the same steps we performed over here on the passenger side, over on the driver's side. To make removing the other side exhaust a little bit easier, we're going to remove the 2 bolts right here and here. Next, we're going to need to remove this underbody panel here, and it will not be reinstalled. We will, however, be reinstalling this fastener here, as well as here. Now there's a total of 7 fasteners that'll need to be removed. There's these 2 push fasteners, as well as 5 nuts using a 10mm socket. We'll need to remove those as well. Now for the push fasteners, we'll just simply take a flathead screwdriver, slide it in underneath the center section of the fastener. You can also use a trim panel removal tool if you want, and slide it down like that. Now with all the fasteners removed, we can go ahead and pull the panel down. And again, this one will not be reinstalled. Now with our panel removed, we'll need to put the 2 fasteners here at the rear, the 2 push fasteners, back through the lower bumper cover and into the metal tab. Now it's a good idea to get an extra set of hands to help you raise the hitch up into position. Be careful when putting the hitch up that you don't push the carriage bolts back up into the vehicle's frame. Once you have the hitch up into position, we'll go ahead and loosely install all 4 flange nuts, and then we'll tighten down the hardware and torque it to the manufacturer's specification. Now with the hardware on our hitch torqued down, we can go ahead and reinstall our exhaust. And that'll do it for the installation of the CURT Trailer Hitch Receiver, part number C11352 on our 2014 Nissan Altima.